Hello, good morning, and welcome to our Nixu Cybersecurity Index 2023 virtual event. My name is Michał Sieradzki, and I'm a field marketing manager at Nixu. And today I am joined by our CEO, Teemu Salmi, who will run majority of this webcast. And we're also joined by our experts, Marek Reimer, SVP, Head of Identity and Access Management, Mika Holfast, VP at Managed Services, and Peter Hellström, Service Unit Lead for Advisory. Before I hand over the floor to the stars of the show today, I would just like to go through some quick technicalities. Number one, the webinar will take 1 hour exactly. And number two, we plan to hold a Q&A session at the end of the webinar. So I highly urge you to ask any questions that might arise during the webinar. You can put them into the chat box that you should see on the right-hand side of your GoToWebinar panel. And we will try to answer as many of them as possible. This is it from me for now. I wish everyone a pleasant webinar. And Teemu, I hand over the floor to you, and I will start sharing my screen.
Perfect, Michal, and thank you for that. Thanks for the introduction, and good morning to everyone also on my behalf. Like Michal said, my name is Teemu Salmi. I'm the CEO of Nixu Corporation, and joined with my dear colleagues here today, we will take you through actually the latest client interview that we've done. We call it Nixu Cybersecurity Index, and it's the second year in a row that we have performed this interview with our clients to see where we are at with cybersecurity. I'm going to come back a little bit more to the details around that. But first, a bit about the agenda for today and the next hour to come. I'm happy that Michal said exactly 1 hour. Let's see, depending on the dialogue and questions at the end as well, but definitely not longer than 1 hour for sure. So we'll start by going through the survey itself and look at the index and see how that is built up and what it contains, and also, of course, the key findings that we have gotten out of the client interviews. After that, with the discussion with my colleagues here around those findings, we'll look at something we call 7 pillars of business resilience. So how do you then build business resilience having cybersecurity as a starting point? So we'll come back to that at the end before we'll take your questions. And I hope that you have many for us later on this morning. Right, with that, I think let's get straight into it then. And like I said, this is the second time that we've done this interview with our clients. And it's a mix actually of both web-based interviews, but also personal interviews, mainly personal interviews. And it's actually a self-assessment by our clients. I mean, from a Nixu perspective, we don't put any weight into the results. So what you're hearing here today is actually what our clients are telling us. It's not what we are telling our clients. So definitely just reflecting the summary of all of that data points. We have had 370 roughly participants. If you go back, please, to the previous slide. We've had 370 participants roughly in this survey, and we have focused on looking at 4 lenses when it comes to cybersecurity and getting the feedback from our clients about current state. So how is cybersecurity set up today from a maturity perspective? Management is the second lens. So how is cybersecurity as a topical agenda item managed in our companies or in our clients' organizations? So on the executive leadership team, on the board level, where does the discussion go when it comes to cybersecurity? Third lens is investments. So how much are our clients currently investing in cybersecurity? And then fourth lens is then the future developments. Which are the most important capabilities that our clients tend to invest in for the next 12 months to come? So that's how the survey is built up. And a little bit about, if we go to the next slide, about the demographics of our respondents in the survey, those 370 that I talked about, you'll see here that a majority of our answers comes from Finland with 58%, Sweden representing 13%, Denmark 9%, Norway 9%, and then we have other countries representing the final 12%. To the left there, you see the industries as well, the verticals where the answers are coming from. And to the right-hand side, you'll see also the sizes of the companies who have, organizations who have answered our survey as well. And you can see that it's a pretty much 50-50 split between large enterprises and mid and smaller companies. So I think that the range of respondents is actually very representative and good. Right, so if we continue then to the next slide and we look at the key findings, and these are the key findings we will drill down in with my colleagues here a little bit later on. I will just very briefly first go through all 5 of them before we jump into them one by one. So first key finding is that 81% of the clients responding to the survey say that they invest in cybersecurity in order to build business resilience. Makes, of course, very much sense. You want to make sure that your daily operations continue to run 24/7, 365 undisturbed. This year, what we see in our client survey is that AI is popping up as a very topical agenda item. Last year, we had some mentions around AI, but this year it's really all over the place. So we're going to deep into the AI question and topic a little bit later on to also reveal a little bit about what is it that we are hearing and also give our perspective on AI from a Nixu point of view. The top 3 future investment areas that our clients are talking about is security monitoring, security awareness, and also identity and access management. Those are the 3 areas where most investments are going to go in the nearest future and the most critical areas to address. Then we have the challenge with competence. This is nothing new. It's been around for a while, but 59% of the respondents to the survey say that they don't have, they cannot recruit as many experts as they would within cybersecurity. And of course, that is a big challenge. And according to ICS2, which is the leading global cybersecurity association, there is a gap of 4 million cybersecurity experts globally. And a recent study made in Sweden showed that there's a gap of 80,000 experts missing only in the country of Sweden. And a final fun fact is when we look at our the index survey respondents, our clients say that they are lacking 1,300 experts in total when we look at the answers that we are getting. Then a final finding here is that the gap between the best performing organization and the rest is huge. So we're going to also look into that. So what does it mean? What are the best doing that then differentiates them from the rest, so to say, right? Good, but this was the short summary, and now we've heard me talking for almost 10 minutes. So we'll change a little bit focus to my colleagues here, and we'll start with looking at the first key finding, which is about the fact that 81% of our clients say that they invest in cybersecurity to secure business resilience. And Peter, you are heading up our advisory services within Nixu, and of course you spend quite a lot of time with our clients discussing this topic. So when you talk to them about business resilience, what do you hear? What are they telling you and us?
Well, what they're telling us is that, first of all, I mean, the issue of cybersecurity is more on a strategic level now than it's been before. People are talking about it from a higher level and also a high level in the companies, which means that boards are interested in it, in the topic, and C-level are also interested in the topic. That's one thing, and that's a good thing, but it needs to be further amplified and further enhanced, because still there are a gap between what's actually being done and what's being done on a strategic level. Also, companies are talking quite a lot about security posture. Where do they want to be?
Yeah,
and that's a very interesting thing, because it's really hard to do the proper investments and to have a good explanation on why you're doing what you're doing if you don't want to know where you're going to be. And I would say that quite a lot of companies are not quite there yet, where they have a really clear picture of where they want to be. And the third thing we hear is that people are starting to talk about why. Why do we do these investments? And how can we tie it to the business? How would it tie into what we actually do? And how can we see this as a business enabler rather than a cost, which is traditionally what it looks like. So these are three things I hear when I talk to the customers. A lot of other things, of course, but these are three main things, I think.
So I'm really happy to hear that on a strategical level, this is now developing and you know, more road mapping and more conscious planning about how to tackle cybersecurity in order to increase the business resilience with our customers.
And also the planning is not separate anymore. Before they could have said that, well, we do this track for cybersecurity, but now it's a part of the corporate strategy planning, which is also something that's very interesting.
Right, good. Thanks, Peter. And of course, we can see that, I mean, there's also compliance is coming up and growing as a very topical area in importance for our clients.
Yeah.
Any comments on compliance before?
Yeah, absolutely. We can thank our government for that. To quite a great deal. And I mean, the latest additions to what companies need to be compliant to is the directives coming from European Community. We have NIS2 and all the derivatives of that, and this is going to be something that we need to talk about. Right. I love it because it sets a ground level for the cybersecurity work in a company, and it defines necessities, and I'm really happy that it's done this way. Right. But it is something that we are going to have to address. Otherwise, compliance issues are getting more complicated due to local legislation and local rule sets, and you have things like bank inspection and things, and also the EU regulations that are coming up. So it's getting more complex, but also getting addressed accordingly. So
yeah, okay. One final question before we move on. That's right. Are we ready from your perspective when we look at, for instance, the Nordic countries in totality and look at NIS2, for instance, as a compliance requirement? Are we ready?
No.
No. Okay. So there's still that's still a lot of work to be done there.
Yeah, and mostly I would say it's two things. First of all, companies need to have a structured way of working with cybersecurity, and that's lacking today quite heavily. The second thing is that, and now I don't remember what I was supposed to say, but
but yeah. In general, we can say that no, we're not ready, right? And there's a lot of work to be done. And October next year, NIS2 will kick in as a legislation that is binding us all.
Now I remember supply chain. Yeah, you need to secure your supply chain, and that's quite a big thing because that's something that we just started to do with companies now to help them secure their supply chain.
Right.
And I think that's going to be the big one, to be honest.
I agree on that. Thank you, Peter, for your wisdom around the first key finding there. And then if we look at the second key finding, which is all about AI. Like you see here on this slide, we try to also amplify the responses that we've had from last year that continue into this year's index result as an important topic, and that we see moving into the future as well. We have, for instance, phishing, that is still extremely relevant area, continues to be relevant for the future as well. But one thing that really stands out in this year's survey is AI and all questions around AI. I mean, AI, of course, is there for the good to help us become even more secure and stay ahead of the curve when it comes to cybersecurity. But obviously, it's also used by the bad guys and the threat actors that advance even faster into that. But Mika, if we dive into a bit on our managed services operation and managed services business and talk about AI, so to say, on the good side, what are we doing in Nixu? How are we using AI in our delivery towards our clients?
So of course we combine the security monitoring, which is mainly done with the security operations center. So we talk a lot about SOCs. And within SOC, I think if we isolate that, we usually want to talk about the different capabilities coming from SOC.
Right.
So for example, in detection area, we emphasize the detection. We'll use the machine learning algorithms. We use new technologies to emphasize how do we do detection capability. Right. Then AI helps us also in the investigations. So our analysts are faster, better. They, for example, understand all the languages, so they can read all the phishing emails now with different languages, and they can interpret whether this is from a cultural and language perspective, whether it's phishing or not. Right. And then finally on the posture management, which is kind of the big thing coming out. So how do we proactively improve? I think in there we see a lot of emphasis in AI, for example, analyzing threat intelligence, attack surface management, and so on and so on. So we are really using it and looking forward on the new things and piloting the newest co-pilots and all of that. So.
And well, you know, we do a lot already with AI, and that's of course good. You were touching it at the end there, new stuff, right? So.
Yep.
So can you elaborate a little bit about what's coming around the corner for us when it comes to also introducing new AI capabilities?
Yeah, I think the big buzzword currently is, of course, the Microsoft's capability around co-pilots and all of that. That's going to be a big thing. We are piloting that already with clients.
Yeah.
So that's going to be one thing. But if you now want to have a concrete thing, what do we do now with the AI? It's the detection capability.
Right.
So we are enforcing our kind of static rules with the AIs and machine learning. So that's what we are already doing, and it creates value for our clients.
Excellent. Thanks, Mika. And of course, I mean, AI is, you know, we talked about it from a managed services capability, but AI, of course, in all technology areas is progressing. And let's look at another topical area, identity and access management, Marek. Can you know, within the IAM space, I mean, there must be a lot of things happening from an AI perspective in IAM as well. Can you share a little bit about that with us?
Yes, definitely, Teemu. So basically, from identity and access management perspective, AI is nothing new. So the good development around this area based on the latest technology has been ongoing for several years now. Of course, the hype is crazy at the moment, right? And I think it's a little bit related to ChatGPT and everybody using the tooling. Of course, the technology used for in identity access management is different. It's different part of artificial intelligence.
Yes.
Of course, the hype is there, but there are different use cases that are gaining ground in the area. And I would say that the first one maybe is related to automated threat detection and response.
Yeah.
Being quick, rapid.
Yes.
If you find a strange pattern, you use block,
yes.
right? Then the second one is related to advanced user behavior analytics. And this is slightly different approach. So you look for different patterns over time that might show you that certain accounts are exposed to breach, are exposed, or you can also find things like unusual access patterns.
Right.
That are happening. So you want to stop that. Then there is next area is related to streamline access management.
Right.
There is everything about efficiency,
right.
automation. You want to do it. And finally, there is one thing, and this is related to AI-powered self-service portals. AI can be used so many beautiful things, right? And this is about user experience, it's about automation, and so forth.
Wow, impressive, right? And is there anything? I'll also ask the same question to you as to Mika. I mean, when we kind of glimpse into the future, and is there something you can reveal about what's going to come next, or is these kind of the topical areas that are right now developing, so to say? Would you say?
I think that the development will continue, and I would like to stress that identity and access management is a strategic part of a cybersecurity posture of a company.
Yes.
So I think you cannot look at this separately. So I think that some parts that you've mentioned, Mika, like threat protection and being proactive and preemptive, this is likewise valid for identity and access management. So those things go hand in hand, and they need to be a part of the overall strategic direction of a company and plan.
Thank you, Marek, and thanks for that. And of course, we could talk about AI for the whole morning here, but unfortunately, we need to also move on to the other areas. So thanks for your sharing your views on that. Then, if we then look into the next topic from the survey perspective, we come into the top priorities for the future investments, right, from our clients' perspective. And here we can see, you see on this chart that actually we have the same top three as last year. So I mean, the priorities have not changed. However, you can see that the importance has increased. So now this year, for instance, I mean, you can see that security monitoring, 41% of the respondents said that this is an area for future investments compared to 37% last year. So it was topical last year, it's even more topical this year. And same with security awareness and identity and access management as well. So I was thinking again to start diving deeper into these topics as well here now. And I, one of the things that stands out when I read the survey, Mika, is that only 30% of the Swedish organizations feel that they are, on a good level when it comes to security monitoring. And isn't that kind of worrying that only 30% say that? And any comments on that? And how can we help our clients accelerate, become better there?
Yeah, I think the word is accelerate, but that's definitely something that needs to happen, because we see NIST coming and we see a lot of business monitoring coming. So we need to align the monitoring with the business needs, and how do we secure the resilience and so on. But how do we accelerate? We actually have received really good results in a concept that we do, which is a SOC scoping workshop, where before one day we sit with the client, we think about what is the impact in the resiliency, what are the critical business things that we need to monitor and we need to secure, and then we align that with the technical approach, and that gives the client understanding what, how, and when, and with what cost. And that's we get a lot of good positive feedback from that yes, using this one day actually gives you a way how to improve this and move it away from your top priorities after you accomplish it.
And if I'm not mistaken, right, that workshop, when we do it, is kind of, it's a Nixu agnostic workshop, so it kind of gives an insight into our clients on what to do, and then they can choose what path to do after that workshop, right? Yeah. So kind of it's an independent workshop just to raise the awareness and knowledge, right?
Yes, you can use the information, for example, volumes when you request for quotes.
Exactly. Very good. Thanks for that, Mika. And if we jump into security awareness, Peter, I mean, once again, coming back to you, since you work with the advisory topics with our clients, and awareness is nothing new. I mean, that's a topic that has been there for years, right? And we see tooling coming, increasing the work with awareness. Hox Hunt being one great example of a tool, helping companies to raise the awareness about cybersecurity. But from your point of view, when you talk to our clients and meet them, and we look at what the best are doing when it comes to security awareness, what's the differentiator? What do they do better than the rest, so to say, from an awareness point of view?
Okay, I think a couple of things. First of all, they recognize the need, the requirements better, and as a consequence of that, they use continuous training instead of sort of one-off training sessions, and they also understand the benefit of training. So when it comes to best of companies, we see that they have a continuous program that goes on, that trains people both in actual trainings, in exercises, but also using tools like, for example, Hox Hunt, or educational tools like small snippets of instructions and videos. But I think the main part here is actually continuity, that you do it over and over again, because it's something that never stops. New threats are coming up, new ways of utilizing people, and so on. And also one thing is that from companies being quite technology confident, you start to sort of a bit say that, yeah, good technology can help us part of the way, but we also need to educate our people and train our people. And the second thing is that you need to do that on all levels. So you need to train the board, you need to train the C-level management, you need to train IT, you need to train the people who actually work with the things on a daily basis. And that's not only IT, that's also HR, that's people who are sitting in the front desk, greeting your customers, everything like that. And so that's quite important. But I think continuity is the key word here.
Continuous learning goes for all of us continuously in life as well. So very good thing, and I can sign up for that. If we continue to a bit of a different topic, but has to do with awareness as well, and something that stands out when we look at the results that we're getting from this survey, is that OT, operational technology, stands out as a category where only 6% of the respondents feel that they are managing OT well. Also from an awareness perspective, but more in holistic way as well. And why do you think OT, Peter, is so low in maturity compared to the IT part of cybersecurity? Any comments on that?
Yeah, I think it has to do with maturity. I mean, OT things have been around for quite many years, but you haven't really addressed the issue until maybe 4, 5, 6 years ago. And if you look at the general information security, you have been addressing that since about 2010. And in a structured way. And now there are coming standards like IEC 62443, for example, that touches on governance, but it's a technology standard as such. And that helps a bit creating the maturity that you need. But still you separate the governance part of OT and the governance part of IT and information security.
Right.
And that needs to be consolidated. But Gartner, I think, said something about 2025.
Yeah.
I really think that we can do it sooner.
Yeah. No, yeah.
But it's more or less a maturity thing, and how you think about it internally in the company. This is also, I think, part of what we addressed earlier with the strategy, that we see that people and companies are addressing these issues more on a strategic level, which means that consolidating, having one way of governing, and including more things in that are coming, but we're not really there yet. We're working quite hard on consolidating this, but we also need our customers to follow us on that journey.
Right. And now to summarize, if I now get you right, Peter, is that there's different entities in the organizations. You have maybe the IT organization taking care of the enterprise kind of security, and then you have maybe a manufacturing organization or whatever is your operational part taking care of the OT, and they are managed differently, and they should be managed, together in a company to get the holistic,
Yes.
view on both strategically how to develop it and also from an awareness perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. It should be considered information security, basically all of it, and that's also including IT security and OT security. And once we get there, it's not nirvana, but it's
close to nirvana. Okay, thank you, Peter. Let's continue to the third and final area that is actually, percentage-wise increasing most from last year: identity and access management. And a very open question to you, Marek.
Yeah.
Why is identity and access management important? And why is it also increasing in importance?
I think that the increase is pretty obvious if you consider what you were just saying, Peter, about cybersecurity coming up on the overall highest level in a corporate agenda. And we try to summarize the different forces behind it. So why it's the interest and investment is really increasing. And I would say that they are primarily 3 different drivers to that. So if you look at this slide that we are presenting now, so you have the geopolitical drivers, and like data protection and privacy regulations that we heard just a minute ago. Then we have globalization versus data localization. We want to have global deliveries and people accessing data from any place, right? But then you have different regulations, and then you need to balance those things. So who gets the access and when is, of course, very important. Cyber threats coming also from the nation states. We know how the geopolitical situation look like, right? Then we have the market drivers, and market drivers are about user expectations, but also about digitization.
Yeah.
There is probably a company in the world that is not performing a digital transformation. And this, of course, interconnecting everything requires a diligent management of identities. You have mergers and acquisitions. You buy companies, you sell off companies, you need to manage this. And then at the end, of course, not to forget are the technological drivers. And technological drivers are many, like, for example, we have not touched based on the topic yet, but zero trust, for example. Zero trust, very important area that requires completely different approach to identity management. You have remote work, COVID times, we've lived through difficult times, and it resulted in that we work in a different way. We different from different locations. We work from home. You need to manage your accesses, your identities in a proper way. And then you have things like cloud adoption, because this is also, you utilize your IT and OT resources in a different manner. So these are the drivers. And of course, if you look at all those things and from a corporate level, it leads to a number of questions, a number of challenges that you as a company need to manage. And we try to summarize them. So they are once again related to, first of all, protection and access control. Are you on top of your accesses? Unification. Do you have the accesses scattered around different systems if you are a large company, or do you have an oversight of what you have, right? Then integration of that. If you acquire a new company or divest or whatever you do, is it an easy process or is it hell? Question mark, right? Auditability, for example. Will your company survive an audit?
Right.
Compliance. And finally, efficiency, I would say. A lot of manual labor is put into this kind of topics, access management in the companies. And there is a part in cost saving related to that, but there is cost saving also something that is maybe not oftenly mentioned. By managing your accesses in a proper way, you manage the licenses of the underpinning software you have in the company. If you buy expensive cloud software, for example, do you just throw the accesses and the licenses away? Do you manage them? Do you revoke accesses when people quit or change positions? They are a lot of money into that. User experience is another thing that is, driving the change. People want to have easy access, as we do, with our iPhones or whatever smartphones. They want to have it in the company. Scalability. Does your solution scale as you grow? And finally, the maybe very important thing, and maybe the most important thing, is the future-proofness. Because as we talked about artificial intelligence, we've talked about different things. Is your solution future-proof? Or are you getting into new problems and new hurdles as you go along year by year? And you cannot predict it. So, very, very obvious question to a complex problem.
Wow, sounded like a strategy lecture in identity and access management. Thank you, Marek, for that. Really comprehensive answer, right? And the only thing probably to add to that from an IAM perspective is that the ecosystem is changing, right? I mean, you used to be monolithic, kind of one data center kind of applications and servers, and now the adoption of SaaS solutions, obviously putting, accesses around the world, right? And creating a more complex ecosystem for our clients to manage as well from an identity perspective.
Yes, and integrating those.
Integrating. Excellent, excellent, Marek. Thank you so much. And from that third area, we will now jump over to the fourth area, which is around the gap of competence and capability in the world. And here you can see the respondents from our survey and how they responded to the question that we will not be able to hire enough in-house cybersecurity experts. And there you see that a big portion of the respondents, more than 50% say that, 59% say that they will not be able to hire the needed competence to secure their own operations within cybersecurity. And like I already said and mentioned in the beginning, when I summarized this topic, 4 million experts globally are missing when it comes to cybersecurity, and 80,000 only in Sweden, as one example of a country on country level. Obviously, it means that from a cybersecurity perspective, we need to start chasing capabilities in different pools of competence, right? And one obvious thing that at least we are doing right now is to look into the IT industry, because in IT, you already have a good pool of capable people working with software development and coding, etc. And it's very easy to take people from that pool and convert them into cybersecurity experts as well. So we need to find other means of solving the gap of capability, because there's not enough schools or universities to push out the need or the gap to close the gap that we have today. And the gap will just widen for the future as well, considering the fast development of cybersecurity arena or industry as such, I would say. Good. Now, with that, actually, any comments by anyone, by the way, on the gap situation? Anything you would like to add from my smart colleagues?
So I would definitely add from a managed services perspective.
Yeah.
Definitely you should utilize the outsourcing services, because there we are really efficient in delivering kind of services that are equal to everyone. So that's really something that we do. So why don't you focus your in-house people to work with Peter, for example, on the business continuity and business things, and aligning your cyber with business, and move the technical stuff that can be done with a outsourcing partner.
Yeah.
We see a lot of good things happening around there.
First sales pitch of the day. Thank you so much for that, Mika. Really appreciate that. No, but on a serious note, of course, that's how you can offload and make sure that the gap closes, right?
Maybe a comment to that. So I think the outsourcing and utilizing partners is a very valid way of bridging the gap of your own competence. With that said, the mindfulness is required here, because the competences that you bring in are addressing very sensitive areas. So for the audience, it's not just like any other outsourcing that you have made,
right.
Going for price or cheap labor somewhere. It's about getting in experts that will know the secrets of your company. So you need to have a partner that you really, really trust, that is specialized in the area.
Yeah, that's true.
And also from my point of view, I mean, this is a major risk for a company,
of course,
and going to address the risk assessment later on. But for me, at least when we talk about this, if you address it as a risk, you also enable yourself to be able to prioritize. And I think when the resources are scarce, you need to prioritize, and you need to have the capability to prioritize. And also working structurally with in a structured way with information security in general will help you to actually mitigate a bit of this.
True. Good points, Peter. Thank you for the additions, gentlemen. Then let's move into the last key finding before we'll talk about how and what should you then do as a starting point to get more resilience from cybersecurity point of view. But here is a summary from our survey when we look at what are the best doing that differentiates them from the rest. And basically, if you look at this graph here, you can see, or this table here, you can actually see that there's 3 areas. The top areas is more, addressing, how you lead and how you manage cybersecurity in the company. The second area is about capability and how much do you invest in cybersecurity, and then of course the third area is risk management. You were into that, and how do you handle risk from a daily perspective when it comes to cybersecurity? And maybe we should look at that in more detail, Peter, about risk management. And why do you think risk management is such a big differentiator between the best and the rest when it comes to cyber?
Well, proper risk management enables you to do proper prioritization. If you know what you need to protect yourself against, then you can do just that and maybe push other things into the future, or maybe even mitigate it by prioritizing properly. So I think that's sort of the main thing, that you are able to prioritize, but also you get awareness about how what your landscape look like. And this is unique to each company. Everybody doesn't have the same enemies. Some are common, but
yeah, definitely right.
Yeah, but you need to know what you have to protect yourself from, and then do it in a structured way. So proper risk management flows into mitigation, flows into learning, flows into reassessing risks and maybe mitigating them. So proper flow like that and proper risk management will help you quite a lot.
Yeah, isn't it really so, Peter, that cybersecurity risks should be handled like any other enterprise risk, like cash flow, liquidity, or whatnot, right? It's no different from that point of view, right?
No, it's not. And that's one thing that we lately have been helping customers with quite a lot, is aligning cybersecurity risk management or information security risk management with the risk management in companies in general. I've come into companies that say that, yeah, okay, we have proper risk management for everything else, but cybersecurity do this over there because we don't understand it. And now
it's an IT topic.
It's an IT topic. It's really not. And
no.
Usually you also have different kinds of ways to assess the risks and to put value on the risks and so on and so forth. So even if you would have the capability to compare them, you would compare apples with bananas.
Right.
So there's quite a lot of work to do to align and to get this to be a question that or an issue that is handled by risk management in general in a company. But also, as we said before, this is being raised on a more strategic level now. The board is really interested in it, and this helps quite a lot.
Which is a good segue actually to the next question here, or thought process, that why is it so important that board and executive teams care about cybersecurity? Maybe an obvious question, but I have to ask it anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think I partly at least answered it. I mean, a lot of what you talk about to a board is what risks do we have and how can we mitigate them. And before I've seen you present risks about cybersecurity to a C-level sort of leadership team, and that bounces back into the IT question again.
Exactly.
But it never reaches the board.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden we've seen an interest from the board to actually know about these things, and that helps quite a lot. So I think what we talked about earlier about risk management and such, I think having the board interested in cybersecurity matters will help us to get proper risk management in place and also align the risk management for the whole company, so you can understand the complete risk picture. And to be quite honest, the biggest risks you have in many companies today for the company's survival even are information security risks.
Yeah. True that.
Yeah.
It's a good summary, right?
Yeah.
Good. I would like to ask, on the last kind of key topic here, is it really so, Peter, that is it so easy that if you invest more, you get better? Is it that easy?
As a general rule of thumb, no. but I mean, companies that know what to invest in tend to invest a little bit more because they know that they are investing in the right thing. And over a long term, doing long-term investment instead of sometimes I've seen investment by Gartner. You look at the upper right corner in the quadrant and then you buy the stuff that's in there, services or products. But that doesn't really help because it's you can't be sure that you're actually solving a problem that you have.
Right.
You might be solving some other problem, but not the one you have.
Right.
So again, you need to know what kind of problem to address before you start investing.
Right. So money is important.
Yes.
But you need to have the strategy first and decide how to invest and then get the needed funding to do that.
Yeah, and prioritize properly.
Thank you, Peter. And thanks to all of you. I think that kind of concludes our 5 key findings from the report. But of course, there's much more in the report for you viewers to read at a later stage. So if we now move to the next part here, this Nixu Cybersecurity Index is actually an index where we kind of summarize the 4 lenses that I talked about in the beginning, and then we aggregate the answers from our clients and we get a score from 10 to 100, where 100 is, well, the ultimate cybersecurity maturity and solution is in place, and where 10 is an extremely poor quality of cybersecurity in place. And this is the second year, as said, we are measuring this index. And when we look at the totality of all the answers we got last year, we ended up on a score of 67.3 of all the respondents. And this year, our result is 64.9, which is kind of scary, isn't it? Right? I mean, our clients are saying, and when they rate themselves, that cybersecurity maturity is going down. I think that's a worrying signal, isn't it? Especially if we look at Finland and Sweden, where we have a big drop from last year's results, and Denmark and Norway coming in this year for the first time with the results, so we don't have any comparability there. But this is concerning to me, and we have in our survey we said that if you're above 65, you're kind of on a satisfactory level, but below 65, you are not, right? And we are just making it to below satisfactory level. Any general reflections first before we dive into the topic? I put this question on the table.
I would say that's a positive signal. I would turn it around a little bit, because talking to our customers, talking to our clients on different levels, decision maker levels, you see that the topic of awareness has increased. the companies know their exposure to threats. They know what is the possible risk they are running, or if they are not doing sufficiently. So I think it's a sign not of being less prepared. It's a sign of understanding that you need to do more.
So basically, you know, learning more, you realize that how much more there is to do. Actually,
absolutely.
It's a good reflection.
Yeah. And the bar is getting higher all the time.
Yeah, that's also important.
So Peter talked about the supply chain. So we start raising the bar from the supply chain perspective, and then companies are checking which companies to work with. And then you really need to get your things together.
Absolutely, that's a good reflection, Mika. And Peter, if you look at Sweden and Finland in particular, right, isn't this kind of worrying that it goes down so dramatically, you know? And you know, what do you think caused this drop in particular in Sweden and Finland? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, we had two good reasons already, but there's also you talked about the bar being raised, and I would say that for Sweden and Finland, but it also should be for Denmark really, but for Sweden and Finland, there's a number of new regulations coming up. There's a bit of confusion about how it will affect, and starting to realize what actually is required of you in a year. You might feel that we were maybe not that prepared as we thought we were. So that can be one reason for the score coming down a bit, and I hopefully will see that it will go up again on a better level for next year. But I think that could be one of the reasons, really.
Very good. Thank you for your reflections on the topic, right? And of course, next year we'll come back and we'll do the survey again, and let's see if your conclusion, Marek, continues. We get even better knowledge and understanding, and we continue downwards. Now, hopefully, we'll actually turn the trend upwards as well. Right, this kind of concludes the part of reflecting on our cybersecurity index, and I think that if we move to the next slide, I think that there's quite a lot of hopefully out of our viewers are thinking that, okay, all of these key findings, and how do I now address this? What do I now do to get started with building the business resilience from a cybersecurity perspective, right? And for that reason, we have released quite recently a white paper we call 7 Pillars of Business Resilience, right, to help all of you getting started. But of course, we won't just leave it with bullet points to you. We'll have a short summary. So Peter, could you talk a little bit about these 7 pillars of business resilience and what that means, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a start from the business strategy and continuity, and yeah, let's do that and invest in getting to know how you should perform cybersecurity. Invest in an ISMS, for example. Do make yourself able to work with this question from a structured point of view, because some stuff we see when we go out to customers is that you have islands. You have an information security island, you have your OT island, and you have your IT island, and they work differently and with not the same governance principles, not the same policies. And please invest in that. That's a really good thing. And also, as you say, continuity here. Business continuity management is key. And I usually say the company that's best in handling exceptions will win. So if something goes south, if you're quicker up if you're up quicker than your competitors, you will win.
You will win
for sure. So business continuity is good. The second point there, baseline, understand the threat landscape and dependencies. Yeah, again, I mean, you need to understand what you're facing, and this changes quite a lot from day-to-day basis, and literally so. It's not something that you can sort of lean back and say we've done it. It's something you have to do every single day of the year and twice on Sunday. So that's true. And dependencies in this case, I mean, business continuity management, one of the things you do when you do that is looking at your dependencies, both internal dependencies and dependencies you have outside your company. So that goes back to business continuity management, I would say. Governance, align cybersecurity with business goals. Yeah, that's really important.
Exactly.
And we are at a why again. So why would you invest in certain things concerning cybersecurity. You got to align that to your business goals. And one goal could be, for example, you need to be compliant. So you need to invest to become compliant to whatever rule set and whatever directives or whatever legislation you have in the country. You need to actually do that, because otherwise things will go bad pretty quickly. Yeah. Then set up the correct technical controls. Yeah, that's a function of the rest. So if you have a structured way of working with cybersecurity and information security in general, and you have your policies in place that tells you about your direction and where you want to go, and you have a strategy and a plan, well, then it's quite easy to set up the correct technical controls. Implementing them is a bit harder, but setting them up is quite okay, because you know what you need to do. Then you got to remember point 6 here, rinse and repeat. It's not something that you do once. It's something that you do all the time. So these things changes. Targets and goals and everything. You need to revise it. And
it's a dynamic world.
It's a very dynamic world, particularly when it comes to cybersecurity, because crooks are not resting at all. Ensure abilities to detect, mitigate, restore, and recover and rebuild. Again, we go back to business continuity management. It also goes to what Mika has been talking about, when you need to know what is happening in your network. This is one of the core requirements for NIS2, by the way. So if you want to be compliant, you need to know what's going on in your network. You need to know what's going on your servers. You need to know what's going on your endpoints. You can't avoid that. So some kind of detection and hopefully also mitigation and response would be appropriate here. And then you said rinse and repeat, and that's one of the most important. If you have a structured way of working with cybersecurity, you will be forced to rinse and repeat frequently, because again, nothing of this that we've been talking about is static things. This moves, and in a quicker pace. And the 7th one, build awareness and culture. If your staff is aware of the threats that are out there and aware of where you want to be with your security, creating a security posture that makes sense to people, then you can build an awareness culture by practicing and training people, and do that continuously.
Continuous learning.
Yeah, continuous learning all the time to help mitigate new threats, because no matter how good technology you have, stuff will slip through. You have these 0-day vulnerabilities that comes up, and it's really hard to protect. There's always somebody being hit by those. But having an awareness that you don't click on the links that you don't know for sure are safe, and you don't pick up USB stuffs and look what's on them from the street. You just don't do that. And if you're in a cafe working now, considering what you talked about, remote working, then sit with your back to the wall instead of sitting in the middle of the room, so everybody can see what you're doing. It's quite simple things, but you need to repeat, because people forget.
It's true.
Yeah.
Very true. I think that's a great summary of our 7 pillars of business resilience. And of course, for you out there, we will make sure that the QR code for how to download this document is also available. And we're actually approaching the questions and answers. But before we go into that, I'll leave you with a cliffhanger. We actually have a bit of a giveaway to all you viewers at the end of the show. So stick around for the questions and answers, and we'll come back with a small giveaway at the end. But please, thank you to my colleagues for good discussions. And Michael, do we have any questions out there?
Yes, we got actually a couple of questions, and I think the first one I can direct at you, Mika. And it is, with Nixu experiences, what are the main differences between Sweden and other Nordic countries in terms of security monitoring?
Yeah, I'm going to answer by, again, following one of our key pillars in the point. I think in the Swedish market, the kind of what is SOC is being treated as a really narrow approach on the detection. So we talk about solely about identities and endpoints, whereas in other geographies, we align with the business. We think what are the critical business processes, what are the enablers of those business processes. So that's, I think, the biggest difference between Swedish market and the rest. We get a lot of RFPs from all the countries. So that's the biggest difference I see.
Thank you. We have one more question. To you, Marek, I think this is going to be, it's about identity and access management. Can you elaborate more on what is driving growing interest in identity and access management.
Yeah, so well, it's very much about what I said previously, and it's related to those different drivers in the market and challenges that the customer face in relation to that. And I think that, you know, I presume that the question, the person that asked the question, look at those different areas that we've presented during this session. I think they pretty well describe as 360 degrees view that you need to take. And maybe as an addition to that, I would say that as a company, it's like you said previously, it's about people. You need to have the right people in place. You need to have right processes. It's not only about the technology thing. So it's processes. It's about platforms. So you need to upgrade your platforms, your technology. And finally, I think it's about partners. And you need to have skilled partners that help you out with those things, because this whole landscape is becoming so complex.
Maybe I think you're touching a very important part with the process, right? And process is then also executed by roles or people, right? So one of the important things, and I think challenges many companies are facing, is the fact that you also need to standardize your roles internally.
Right.
So when you talk about a business controller, for instance, what is a business controller, and what access rights and what, you know, authorities,
Segregation of duties,
segregation of duties, and all of that, of course, also builds up to an identity and access management profile, right? And then automated provisioning of that role. When you hire someone, you give them a role, and automatically it provisions all the accesses and also. So I mean, I think that there's a job also, I think, internally in the organizations to do with the role definition connected to processes, like you said.
Definitely, and then it's back to the previous question that's been asked. You know, if more investment driving, you know, good results. Of course, you need to invest. We know from whatever you do in life, if you need to invest, but you need to drive. You need to manage the investment in a proper way.
Yeah.
So you cannot just invest in technology. You need to invest in processes and things around that.
So correct. Right. Thanks, Marek. Thank you.
Thank you. We have one that just came through as well. Where should the alignment with NIS2 start? I assume this question is directed at you, Peter.
Okay, that's a tricky one. But I would say on the governance side, there will be NIS3, and there will be new legislations, and the change now with NIS2 is quite a large one. So you raise the bar quite high for companies to align with NIS2, and getting yourself the capability to also implement NIS3 at the same time as you implement NIS2 is a good way of handling it. If you think about what you need to do with NIS2, you probably will end up in that you need some kind of ISMS, some kind of ISO 27000 or NIST 800 like governance model to be able to handle this over time. And investing in that is quite a small investment, or the extra investment you have to do to implement an ISMS is quite low compared to having to also implement NIS3 as a separate entity. So I would say start looking at the governance side and implement a structured way of working with information security in general in the company. Do your homework when it comes to policies and such, and 85% of what you need to do with NIS2 is already there.
Yeah. Amen. Very good answer. Thank you, Peter. And I think now we are getting actually to the conclusion. I think, Michael, was there one more? I don't think we have time for much more.
No, there wasn't. So
then, first of all our viewers, please take the opportunity now to download the full reports that we've been talking about, and then the cliffhanger and the giveaway I was talking about, right? I mean, we are also offering now a free 2-hour business resilience workshop with all of you out there to get you started, right? We don't just want to leave you hanging with all these nice findings that we talked about here today. We also want to make sure that you get started on your journey. So make sure, take the opportunity. It's a 2-hour free workshop that we're offering. So with that, I would like to also then thank you, my colleagues, for the panel. Thank you, viewers, for listening in and sharing your question. And Michael also for moderating, and then the production team behind the scenes who have been making this webcast possible. So with that, thanks for now. Enjoy the rest of the day. And until the next time, bye for now.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.